When people are describing themselves or discussing the Myers Briggs Type Indicator, sometimes you might hear them say something like, "I'm an FI," or "I'm an Introverted Feeler." With so many different types of personality combinations involved with the MBTI, it's natural to be a little confused. But don't worry, we at Psychology Element are going to break it down for you, because in today's video, we're going to explain what it means to have introverted feeling. Be sure to stick around until the end. Not only are we going to explain some background from Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychiatrists in modern society, particularly for inspiring the MBTI, we are also going to detail introverted feeling characteristics. Be sure to let us know your thoughts on introverted feelers or Carl Jung's theories in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Alright, let's get started. First, let's talk a bit about Carl Jung's influence on the MBTI. You might be surprised to learn that if you've ever learned about your MBTI personality type, you've already learned a portion of Carl Jung's theoretical model of personality types. Dr. Carl Jung, a psychiatrist from Switzerland, wrote the book Psychological Types in 1921, beginning the global fascination with identifying their own unique personality type. Jung identified 4 different cognitive functions that can build a personality, which are typed into 2 groups, rational and irrational. The cognitive functions found in the rational group are thinking and feeling. In the irrational group, the cognitive functions are sensation and intuition. These cognitive functions are also manifested depending on where the individual finds their energy. If they find their energy from the outer world, they are extroverted. If they retain their energy from their inner world, they are introverted. With these 4 functions and 2 different ways they can be manifested into a personality type, Carl Jung identified 8 different possible cognitive functions that can build someone's personality. Let's quickly go through them so you know each one and their abbreviation. Carl Jung's 8 different cognitive functions are 1. Extroverted sensing, or SE. 2. Introverted sensing, or SI. 3. Extroverted thinking, or TE. 4. Introverted thinking, or TI. 5. Extroverted intuition, NE. 6. Introverted intuition, NI. 7. Extroverted feeling, FE. And lastly, the topic of today, number 8, introverted feeling, FI. If this seems confusing to you, don't worry. That's where the MBTI comes into play. During World War II, Isabel Myers Briggs was fascinated by Jung's theories on personality and believed that if humans could learn to understand each other more based on their unique personalities, there would be less conflict. Thus, her and her mother, Catherine Cook Briggs, decided to turn Carl Jung's research into an easier-to-understand and more widely accessible tool for society to gain awareness of themselves and others. Myers and Briggs noted that while these 8 cognitive functions that build up a personality can appear random and variable, there is an orderly and consistent manner dependent on whether an individual chooses to use their perception or judgment when observing the world. This individual difference in judgment or perception is what turns the 8 cognitive functions into the 16 types of personality we see in the MBTI today. Now that we've explained the influence Carl Jung has had on the popular MBTI's 16 personalities, let's go back to his theoretical framework to explain how each function can be manifested. To do that, we are going to explain the hierarchy of functions. In each of the 16 personality types, all 8 cognitive processes are present. However, each of them is organized into a hierarchy depending on the individual's reliance or preference to use each process. The top of the hierarchy shows the role that the individual prefers to use the most. At the bottom of the hierarchy are the cognitive functions that are unconsciously used by an individual or require a lot of energy. Beginning at the top, the leading or primary role. The cognitive function that takes on our primary role in the hierarchy is also sometimes referred to as the hero or heroine rule because it is the function that creates most of our personality. It's normally developed in childhood and requires the least amount of energy to engage in. The supporting or auxiliary role. Sometimes referred to as the parent role, This role refers to the cognitive function that is naturally engaged when someone needs to either support themselves or other people. When used healthily, these cognitive functions can appear as a nurturing caregiver. When used unhealthily, they can appear overprotective. Each of the 8 cognitive functions can be displayed either positively or negatively, depending on the situation. The relief or tertiary role. The relief role is engaged when someone needs to re-energize. The cognitive function that fits in the relief role is usually where an individual draws their creativity from. The aspirational role. This role normally doesn't develop until midlife and reflects the ways in which we evaluate our regrets, missed opportunities, and fears of the future. However, eventually, it becomes a bridge into developing one's sense of purpose. Then, the last 3 spots in the hierarchy are known as the shadow processes. These cognitive processes normally operate in the background of your unconscious and can fuel negative emotions. However, when in the right situations, they can be triggered positively. Imagine a crisis where you must do something spontaneous and impulsive, like running into a burning building to save a child. These impulses would lie only in the shadows of consciousness, but triggered only when the situation calls for it. The first shadow process is the opposing role. This role is normally what causes us to be stubborn or argumentative towards options ahead of you. While it is positive for causing skepticism, if not controlled, it can cause people to miss out on life experiences. The critical parent role. When used positively, this role would be engaged in the burning building example. It's the process we resort to when faced with emergencies. When exhibited negatively, it is also what can cause you to devalue and harshly criticize others. The deceiving role. This role is what tricks us into paying attention to stuff we should not be paying attention to. However, it also allows us to experience comic relief in life, once again showing the ways each trait can be good or bad. The devilish role. This is almost an exclusively negative role. When engaged in, it usually results in behaviors that are regretted earlier. Often, when engaging in this process, it results in destructive behaviors to either yourself or others. Do you like what you're hearing? Subscribe for more great psychology videos. Alright, now that we've explained the hierarchy of functions, let's explain what it means to have a primary FI function, or to be introverted feeling. First of all, there are 2 of the 16 personality types that are introverted feeling, INFP and ISFP. These 2 types rely on their introverted feeling as their leading or hero role to guide the world around them. It is the easiest and lowest energy cognitive function for them to engage in. So what does this say about their personality? Here are 4 characteristics of introverted feelers. Number 4. People who are introverted feeling are very private. Much of the INFP and ISFP's days are spent inside their heads, daydreaming, and assessing their feelings to find meaning in their lives. Not extroverted, they don't gain energy from sharing their thoughts with others, and sometimes afraid to be vulnerable, they also don't like to discuss their emotions. Yet, they wear their hearts on their sleeves privately, sometimes worried others will notice their inner mental states. Number 3. Primary introverted feelers are very self-aware. Self-awareness has always been one of FI's best strengths. They're well aware of what tasks they excel at or which groups they mesh with, which can give them an advantage when navigating social situations, like starting a new job. Because they rely on their inner feelings to guide the world, they don't remain in areas that give them a bad sensation. For example, someone who is FI would never overstay their welcome. Say they walked into a room where their coworkers were engaged in a private discussion. Less aware people might not notice the tone of the room and budge right in. But introverted feelers can literally feel the energy in the room, sensing they're unwelcome, and exit. Number 2. But this self-awareness can hinder the FI's growth. Because the introverted feeler is so self-aware, sometimes they don't give themselves more credit or let themselves try something new. INFPs and ISFPs tend to view the world through a lens of good and bad, or this is me and this isn't me. By perceiving the world through this lens, they might miss out on opportunities because they've deemed that they wouldn't belong before even trying. Sometimes their self-awareness can make them stubborn. Despite being naturally creative, when faced with a scenario that can make them uncomfortable or insecure, their openness to new experiences shuts down. Number 1. It takes a long time for introverted feelers to develop attachment, but when it happens, it is strong. Because they rely so much on their internal feelings, it's sometimes difficult for FIs to find someone who they can feel that emotional match with. They're rather picky, though not shallow, knowing the exact sensation they need to feel in order to be sure about becoming attached. Feeling an emotional synchronicity with another person is crucial for an INFP or ISFP before they're able to let down their boundaries and become attached. But once it happens, they'll be loyal until the end. If you liked this video, then check out these related videos to see more. What did you think of the video? Are you an INFJ or ISFP with introverted feeling? How does your FI guide your daily life? We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below.